And I just want to touch on just the beauty of kind of the choose your own adventure aspect of the Inner Rail. Like you can go into the Inner Rail and you can grab a slice of pizza and go get some dumplings, like as a side dish. What other restaurant in Omaha can you do that? Where can you get a sushi roll to go alongside your gyro? Hey there, Omaha. Welcome into another episode of Restaurant Hoppen. I'm your host, Dan Hoppen, and one of the biggest pains about going out to eat with a group of people is deciding what restaurant you're going to go to or what type of food you're going to get. Like, you're feeling pizza, but you got a couple people in your group who are feeling burgers, or you really want sushi, but you got a kid who wants ice cream and french fries. They don't want sushi. And somebody has to sacrifice. Something has to give. Unless you are going to the Inner Rail Food Hall, which since it opened in 2019 has been a game changer for Omaha. There are 9 different concepts in one space. They allow everybody to go get their own thing. And I am so excited to just talk more about it and learn more about it with my 2 guests here tonight. First, we have Kurtis Mast, who is the vice president of the Inner Rail Food Hall, and Sam Tiny Laughlin, who is the executive chef for Noddle Companies and the Inner Rail, specifically Tiny's Pizza Joint and Sammy's Sub Shop. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Okay, so because we have multiple personalities, multiple voices here, and some people are listening to an audio version of this, I'd love for each of you to introduce yourselves. Just say your name, how long you've been with the Inner Rail, and how you would describe your role with the company to somebody who you're introducing yourself for the first time.
Sure. Well, I'm Kurtis Mast. I pretty much see all operations inside the Inner Rail and beyond. But at the Inner Rail, like Dan said, there's 9 food concepts, but then there's also a bar and an outdoor bar, which just closed for the winter. And so in there we have, 9 different independently owned restaurants. We have an in-house team that manages the whole front of the house, and we have services teams and everything else. So I see all the nuts and bolts of everything that happens in there.
You know where all the bodies are buried.
That's right. Now, the legend goes that that's where the old racetrack was, right? The Exarban racetrack was there. So Omaha, the racehorse, was supposedly buried there during those days and was never excavated. So I know the approximate area where said horse may be.
Wow, I was making a joke, but he really does know where the bones are, where the bodies are. Okay. So that's Kurtis.
That's Kurtis. So I'm Sam Tiny Laughlin. So at Inner Rail, I kind of do the day-to-day operations for Tiny's and Sammy's, and then anything else that Noddle hospitality needs culinary-wise. And so I'm in the back of the kitchens, in the front of the kitchen, saying hi, doing the dirty work in the back. Yeah, that's my job.
We'll talk more about the specific concepts, but first I want to kind of hit on the Inner Rail as a whole. So if somebody's hearing about it for the first time, located in Exarban, off about 72nd and Center. And like Kurtis was saying, this is a food hall that has 9 different concepts and Sonny's, which is the outdoor bar. So you can go and you can get burgers, you can get sushi, you can get gyros, you can get Thai food, you can get sandwiches and pizza. I mean, it really kind of runs the whole gamut. To you guys, what makes the Inner Rail such a fun place to come eat?
It's definitely the experience-oriented nature of it. Our whole thing is how we can foster human connection through unforgettable experiences. And in and of itself, it is a great experience. You can kind of spend all day. We do have, the food hall itself, but there's some pretty cool retail spaces happening and plant shops and other things. So you can kind of go spend your day there. And, the kids can run around, like you said, grab one thing to eat, can run around the park. You can watch a sports game while someone else has no interest in the sports game, and everyone can kind of have what they want.
There's a dog park right outside.
Yeah,
you got the outdoor bar with Sonny's. I mean, yeah, you can make really whatever experience out of it you want to.
That's right.
Yeah, I would say the exact same thing. The experience, the community, there's a lot of different people that come out and support us and support every other concept that is in there. And just the ease of it. You know, I can have burgers or I can have sushi, and I can get both if I wanted both. You know, so it's the ease of the area and the community in there. Like you can just, like you said, spend all day and just have a blast.
So I want to get into some of the inner workings of how a food hall works. So let's start here. Like, how did you put together this team of food concepts and vendors? Like, how are vendors selected? Do they have contracts for a certain amount of times? To just, however you want to answer that question, take us behind the curtain and kind of tell us how these concepts made it into the inner rail right now.
Mm-hmm. So I've been a part of the inner rail for a couple of years now, and
since 2022, right?
Approximately, yeah, since 2022. And we spend a lot of time thinking about what the neighborhood needs. You know, so we have this lineup of vendors, and maybe someone's up for renewal and they want to go do something else. It's been a big incubation chamber as well, where people will start there and then open their own brick and mortar and get a start in this place that has a great foot traffic and public awareness. And then we ask ourselves, okay, so what do we have here? What do we need? And we played around with a cafe in there, which is No Name Cafe. And, you know, we love the idea of a cafe. We love coffee. We love the mornings. But we were in an unvented stall where we couldn't properly produce the kind of food that we wanted to. And so we sat back and we asked ourselves, you know, what does the area need? And out of that birthed Sammy's Sub Shop. We knew great sandwiches that had high, you know, better quality ingredients than anyone else we knew was serving. A little bit bigger than a lot of our, you know, competitors had, and we really wanted to make that a quality experience. And that really is how we select each vendor, and they're based off of different term lengths. Usually 1 to 2 years, just to make sure everyone's happy in there. And then we make adjustments as we need to.
I was so happy when I saw you guys were opening Sammy's, because like, I don't know of a great like local sub shop. And when that like came across, it was just like, yes, I've been waiting for this. And then I knew Tiny was behind it, and I was like, okay, this dude knows food. This is going to be really good. And it's been fantastic. So I'll let you answer now, but I just want to chime in and validate everything that you said about the sub shop, because it's awesome.
Yeah, and I noticed that you rated our Reuben as, you know, top 20 in Omaha. And it's, you know, even though it's a sub shop and it's a little, you know, not as traditional as some other Reubens, we still aim to do our best with everything we make.
Yeah, still very high quality.
Yeah. For me, I mean, that's everything he said is exactly what he like. His realm of it is a lot more expansive in that area. I would say for me, it's really nice being in the community with the other food vendors as well, and being able to mingle with them and understand what everyone is going through, what they're not like, what they need, what they don't need. How is like, you know, it's just really nice being in a community of chefs and different culinary minded people, as well as being on the back end and seeing the back end work as well. And I would just say it's easy, but it's hard, because you're with 9 restaurants. Like, coming from other restaurants, you're with 9 other restaurants competing against not necessarily the same customers, but the same customers. You know, so you have your people that just want sandwiches, or they know what they're coming for, but the rest of them they're picking and choosing what they want. So it's kind of a difficulty of kind of figuring out your lane and what you need. And like you said, of how we went about like coming up with Sammy's is exactly like, there's not exactly to what you said. There's not a great sub shop that we know of, or that we heard of, or that we have in Exarban that we want to, you know, put our name behind. So it was nice being able to put that up front and being able to do it ourselves and coming up with a great product.
And, you know, piggybacking on that, you know, as much as we've wanted to create a communal space with the inner rail, all the different vendors, even though almost everyone is independent of each other, we've still cultivated that community even within those vendors. You know, if someone runs out of trash bags that night or something, you know, it's like they can come over and say, hey, can I get some extra boxes from you guys real quick, or some extra trash bags or whatever it is. And it's like, absolutely.
Okay, I would love for you guys to touch on that relationship between the different vendors a little bit more, because like you said, it's got to be a weird push-pull a little bit, because yes, they all understand each other's pain points and they want each other to succeed, so they'll help out and they can talk about struggles together, maybe work through stuff. But at the same time, they are all competing, because if somebody comes into the inner rail hall and they go to Tiny's, they're not going to get dinner at Zaytuna. Or if they come in and get sushi from Nori's, they're not going to go get dumplings from Kathmandu. I mean, they can if they really want to eat a lot. But you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of competition just built in there where normally if somebody goes to a restaurant, they're going to a restaurant to order food from that restaurant. What is the relationship between the different vendors like? And how do you guys, as kind of organizers of the food hall, how do you help cultivate that?
So honestly, I would say it's the experience that I've had in Omaha. It's Omaha. Honestly, nobody is competing with anyone. And that's a lot, like the feeling that I've gotten from a lot of restaurant owners or a lot of chefs in the city. It's just we're here to make great products, and if you have a dope product, you have a dope product, and we're excited to see you boom. And I think that's how everyone thinks in the food hall. There's no negativity that I've heard of that or like have been a part of that has given me a bad experience in that. Like I feel like everyone just kind of vibes together and gets we're all here to make money, but we're all here to have good time, and we're not here to compete and fight and, oh, he got $1, I got $1. It's not really like that. And that's what I think is really cool about the NRL as well, being so close.
And we've done our best on the inside, on the backside, to make sure that we have non-competition menu clauses. So if somebody comes in and they want to do something, you can't do something that someone else is doing.
Interesting.
Which makes it a lot easier for people to say, you know, because then they're coming in for something. They want something. It's not like, okay, these two people have the same thing. No, they have all completely different things. You know, we even take that all the way down to someone says they want to add another rice bowl to their menu and they don't have rice. And we're like, well, this person has rice. This person has rice. So we got to make sure that we're not stepping on anyone's toes here to make sure everyone's happy.
You talked about the Inner Rail being an incubator a couple minutes ago, and I absolutely love that because it has exposed me to several brands that I was aware of but didn't really have the opportunity to experience. And probably the number one and my favorite is Zaytuna. So this is a Mediterranean food truck that typically operates late night downtown. That's not my scene. As a 35-year-old married individual, I'm not going late night downtown too often. But people have been telling me about these gyros and the rice bowls that they put together and how good they are. And I'd never gotten to experience that. And they moved into the NRL probably 9 months, a year ago at this point. And like within a week of them moving in, I was there because I was like, yes, I get to experience this food now. And it's fantastic. And I would say the same thing for like Gravy Train was a previous vendor. Willie's, the hot dog joint, was a food cart that got a chance to be in the food hall and sell hot dogs. What kind of growth have you seen from some of those those concepts that have really gotten an opportunity for the first time to kind of take their offering to the masses in a way that they wouldn't get if they were just in their food truck or maybe even, you know, just doing pop-ups or whatever?
So it has been pretty cool to see the growth and development of each different restaurant. I think the most amazing and coolest part to me is when we've seen certain different vendors start to collaborate together. So you take Momo and Nori, and they came together and made saffron.
Oh, yeah.
Out of the Inner Rail. And so there's been these different little collaborations that have happened, and that's not a standalone example. But seeing people have the opportunity to get their name out there, especially, we have a great presence in Exarban, and so it gives a lot of people an opportunity to get seen.
So just in case you guys aren't aware, Nori and Kathmandu Momo Station are two vendors inside the NRL Food Hall. Their owners came together and started another restaurant, an Indian restaurant in Exarban called Saffron together about 2 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, about 2 years ago.
And they met each other inside the NRL?
Yeah.
I did not know. That's fascinating and kind of amazing.
That's amazing.
I love that.
Yep.
And even with the we have a new pop-up stall as well that was in there that we're doing temporarily that Tiny's has, we've collaborated with. They're called Romance Barbecue. Some guys that we knew, or a chef that I knew from Acarant, that was in the trenches with me over there, and he came over and started his barbecue restaurant, and we kind of collabed a little bit and made one of the pizzas for Tiny out of some of his brisket that he uses. And I feel like a lot of that kind of happens too. We kind of pick ideas off of each other as well and collaborate in that way as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, there are some vendors who have been in the Inner Rail the entire time it's been open. Others kind of come and go. They might last a couple months. Their contract might be a year, and then once that year is up, they move on out. I want to focus on the ones that have been really successful. What are some traits or some maybe shared characteristics of those successful vendors that really have helped them pop in the Inner Rail, do you think?
Consistency. I think that's one of the biggest things that the Inner Rail needs, is especially because we have a big office presence as well, a big business community as well, that come down and, when you're coming down to get lunch every day and you know what you like and you know what you want, it's kind of hard to come down and try something new and you're like, I don't know, if I only got 30 minutes. I need to pick something good and go up. And so if you have consistency, I think that's one of the biggest key players is consistency and friendliness as well. Like, being out there and hospitable to the community, but consistency would be probably my number one.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I mean, each of these restaurants are like tiny homes of restaurants. They're not big, but when people can come together and curate an entire home inside of a tiny home in that sense, can make a full restaurant within this little space that can offer everything you might find in an Italian pizza restaurant or in a sushi restaurant or something like that, that they're able to give people everything that they need. If you're feeling that genre, it can all be available there. And that seems to be a big part of success, along with people being able to keep up with the high volume that we see in those spaces. Because that's also an amazing attribute of, restaurateur that can, in a small space, keep up with that kind of a volume.
Since Sam came onto the team several months ago, it was sometime in 2024, I don't remember exactly when it was, but since then, I guess there's the pop-up stand that has Romance Barbecue right now, but the two newest concepts inside of the Inner Rail are yours. They're Tiny's Pizza Joint and Sammy's Sub Shop. What is the balance that you guys are looking for between providing those opportunities to outside concepts to come in and, like you said, make it their own tiny home and kind of introduce themselves, versus saying, we need a great pizza joint here that can serve pizza slices to people who are just coming down, they have a half an hour from work. We have this amazing culinary talent. Let's just have him open it. What's the balance between running a stand yourself and bringing in an outside person to kind of try their own venture?
So it's been interesting. Historically, we decided we wanted to be operators in the food hall as well, to really be in the trenches with everyone else, to see it from the inside and not just run it from the outside. And we took, at that point, the hardest stall that was available, which was Pop's Pizza Stall. And it was something that we had tried running for a bit, but we didn't have a chef. We didn't have someone to run the stall. So we essentially had our managers overseeing it a little bit, and it was a little disconnected. And we started to analyze it and realized that everything was wrong with Pop's Pizza. The pizza was too small to share. It was too big to have by yourself. And because we had a certain type of domed oven that was very technical, it took us a long time to make pizzas. And whenever we got a big rush, people had to wait 45 minutes to get their pizza, and we know that just doesn't cut it. So everyone else is eating. This person got zaytuna. This person got nori. Everyone else is sitting at the table eating, and they're like, well, I'm waiting for my pizza still, and everyone else is done, and then they're like, oh, now it's ready. So we took that and we broke it down, and we said, what does the food hall need again, and what can we do that we'd be really excited about? And a slice concept came out of that. And we actually found that through the slice concept, when you rethermalize these pizzas, that you got the display and you throw it back in for a minute to get it crispy again, it came out almost better than a fresh pizza. Mm-hmm. And so we took that, and then Gravy Train opened up their brick and mortar in Midtown, and that was the hardest stall in the food hall. It was unvented, so we can't cook food in it technically. And so we said, well, let's take on the hardest stall in the food hall because no one else seems to be able to. Everyone started in there saying, well, I can do a limited concept in here. And then they get started, and within a month, they want to do the whole concept, and it just doesn't work. And so, we took some of the hardest stalls in there and said, how can we give to the inner rail with the toughest ones in here and be right there with everyone else?
And I think that's kind of where we are right now with the inner rail and those two concepts. I think the rest is going to be fostering new concepts and different things from outside sources as well. I think that what we've done, we wanted to take on those two spots to show that not only keep our standards where we have to show that we are able to hold those standards, and then we want to show as an example to the other crowd to be like, this is the place that we can hold standards and be to the highest ability that we can be at as well. And say that it can be possible, and it is possible.
And Tiny knows standards. If you guys have eaten out in Omaha over the past couple of years, there's a good chance this guy has either served you a plate of food or created a plate of food. He's been at Jackson Street Tavern, Via Farina, Sternella, Au Courant. I mean, some just of the best. And now you're going with this opportunity. What was it about the inner rail? And I don't know if they approached you, if you went out and, how this opportunity came about, but how did the opportunity come about? What made this such an attractive position for you?
We got this guy so drunk that he didn't know what he was getting into.
No, but it was pretty cool. I was out at Lost Road Golf, the private golf course out west, and I was running the show over there, doing my thing, and it was fun, and I was pretty content. Like I was not wanting for anything. And I have a friend that he runs a retail spot in Exarban called A Priori, which is a men's clothing brand. And it was their opening, and they, decided to have like a little cool little food concept thing go on, like a pop-up go on. So he reached out to me. We set it up. I got to meet these guys. And we went in there. I did my thing. They were like, let's talk a little more, and let's see what's going on. And at the time, like I said, I was content over at the Lost Rail. I was doing good. And I just felt like I wanted to put some more on Omaha. And these guys are young. They're doing their thing. They want to keep going and put a mark on Omaha. And I was like, well, this is exactly what I think. I still got a little bit left in the tank to go put a mark on Omaha. So I kind of went with them, and I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. And so that's kind of how it all started.
Still got a little left in the tank.
I hope so.
Come on.
This guy's 26.
I've been everywhere.
You got all kinds of life left. You're going to do so much. So, Kurtis, from the other end of that, do you remember that catering event, and what stood out about Tiny? What made you guys say, ooh, there might be something here. Let's have a talk with him.
I do remember. I remember because a bit of it was we got together, and they asked me to sit down. A priori asked me to sit down and help curate this menu with Tiny. And so I met him then, and I was like, all right, this guy's kind of cool. He hates me because he's like, how's the food? I'm like, that's pretty good.
His face is, every time I'm like, here, try this, he'll try it, and everyone else, I'll get a reaction like, oh, this is so good, this is so good. From him, he's like, he always humbles me. He's like, it's all good, it's okay.
I got pretty high standards, but, my wife has been a chef at some amazing places, so, I like to push as much as he does.
Yeah.
But I do remember that day because then he put together this really cool little menu for this retail pop-up. And I saw something in him, his energy, his enthusiasm, his tenacity for food, his knowledge of the Omaha scene and food itself. And when I was tasting just these little bites he put together for this thing, it was like, man, these are amazing. And we were, realizing that we needed someone on our team to be able to run these concepts that we wanted to put together in a big way.
Now, it's one thing to make excellent food and to cook at a restaurant when you're doing somebody else's concept, and clearly you're very good at that. But then when you had a little experience with this because you owned a pop-up for a couple of years there. But when you're making your own concepts and you're creating your own food and you're the one who's training the teams and everything, that's a totally different skill set.
Yes,
Once you took this position on, how did you what kind of crash course did you put yourself through, or how did you level up to prepare yourself to take this role on?
Well, I would say I'm still on the crash course, right? It takes years and years for you not only to get the knowledge about food that I'm still continuously learning every single day. But to then go flip that and put your head to a computer and look the numbers down, up and down, and make sure we're doing all right. And even today, like to this day, like it's still a struggle to get through, to learn that side of it for me, because I'm like, I tell them every day, I just want to cook. Like, I'm good at that. I don't want to look at the books. I just want to cook. Tell me if I need to switch something up, I'll switch something up. But so yeah, every day is, it's a learning curve for sure. And I would just say, working with these guys, they really like took me in, and I was like, I told them from the jump, I was like, I don't really do computers. I don't really do emails. That's not my thing. And still to this day, they put me on 150 emails and meetings and different things like that. So I'm slowly learning, but it's getting there, and I think it's going to get better over time. But yeah, I would say it's still a process for me, and it's a lot harder than I thought. Like I said, I got humbled very quickly being in the city, and people knowing your name about food and where you've worked and things like that, and then jumping behind your own concepts is a lot harder and a lot scarier for sure. And so I give my hats off to the people that jumped into their own concepts from the jump. It's a struggle for sure.
Kurtis, I want to get a little bit into your background as well. How did you get involved with the Interrail?
It's a funny story. Well, so I've been in food and beverage since I was 15. So it's been 22 years now. And it's been a minute. And so at a certain point, I think when I was about 32, I needed a break. And I was just jumping around in the front of the house, the back of the house, a little bit of management, running a little mom and pop shop. Just took a job dishwashing for a while because I just wanted a break. Realized, that doesn't pay the bills. So I jumped back into another department, and then I took a step back for a few years, and I didn't know what was next. I was 33, and I had all these different certifications and different things, and I had no idea where it was leading. And my wife and I had just bought this house, and I'd gutted it down to the studs, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. And we were sitting out back, and she's like, what do you mean? Like, our house is in studs? We just got this car note? Like, what do you mean you don't know what you're doing? And I was like, I don't know. And she was like, that's okay. And that was like a huge moment for me. And she was like, that's okay. We'll figure it out. And so at that point, I actually took a job at Trader Joe's, and I just knew it was a great company, and spent 3 years just sort of twiddling my thumbs. I call it my desert years. I had no idea what was coming up, and I just said, let me just see what's next. And about 2 years into that, I felt something opening up inside of me, and I was like, okay. My wife was a chef. I've been in restaurants my whole life. I got really into the soil science. My wife dragged me into this advocacy course about soil called Kiss the Ground, and it was all about how to, create healthy soil structures. And that just elevated me more than I ever realized it would. And at that point, I realized I wanted to get back into food, to start making food that actually nourished people, and find ways for us to collaborate with local farms and start our own farm. And so I was like, okay, I want to open a restaurant or have a kid or start a family. And I was like, I'm ready for something in my life to open. I was, and then I met Sam Noddle, who is one of the owners and runs Noddle Hospitality. And we met randomly, actually, I was teaching yoga, too, at the time. I had no idea.
You're just trying everything and seeing what sticks.
Seeing what was happening, and it was a yoga class, and we just kind of met and said hi, and then I saw him again, and then I saw him again, and we started talking. At that point, I knew I wanted to open a restaurant. So I was telling him everything that was wrong with his restaurant and where he could improve and what they could be doing on this front. My head was spinning, and he was like, listen, I think I have a place for you on my team. And so he brought me on as a manager. They had a position open, and I took that. And then within 9 months, I was running the place. I just had a vision. I knew what I wanted, and I just love learning. So it just became everything I could learn about restaurant operations, business growth, leadership, and just trying to fill all of the holes that I saw in the Interrail and where we could do better and what could grow. And it just grew into a bigger and bigger position until the person whose job I took left, and I stepped into that. And that was about just over a year ago. And it's been an absolute joy.
So what I'm hearing is if I want a job at the Interrail, I come in, I talk to the boss, and I tell him, here's all the things that you're doing wrong, all the screw-ups, and here's how I would fix it. And then,
I think I've annoyed him enough to that point where anyone else who does that, he's going to say, go talk to Kurtis.
So, you kind of talked about, you had your desert years. You were really trying to find yourself for a while there. Once you linked up with the Interrail, what was it about this place that's made you feel like, okay, I think I've found it. I'm putting down roots.
There's nothing like it. I mean, I'm in love with Omaha. I'm not an Omaha native. My wife is. But when I came here, I absolutely fell in love with Omaha. I mean, it is a beautiful city. There's space. There's so much opportunity. And it's not too saturated of a market. And so already I was in love with the possibilities here. And when I met this group was so ambitious already. And in the Interrail, I just never seen anything like that before. Sonny's, the outdoor bar that we have, was one of my first experiences in Omaha. And I was like, where am I? Like, this doesn't feel like Omaha. And that stuck with me. And I was like, I want to keep growing this. And I noticed that there was such a need for that community itself to have a strong support base and people standing behind it that could help keep fostering its growth and see its potential and keep inviting people in, of just be the most inclusive place that we could be. And a lot of the decisions that we make are based around that inclusiveness. And so that to me has been a very exciting part, and there's nowhere else I'd rather be.
That's one of the cool things that I've learned from him is we were sitting in a meeting one time with, all of us in our Notto hospitality meetings. And, Notto developments, they build buildings and different things like that. And so we sometimes get sidetracked on different things. And he said a really cool thing of, I want to build, or Sam said a really cool thing of like, I want to build neighborhoods and community. And I never thought about that. Me being in the kitchen, you think about your community, you think about the people you're feeding them. It's a very intimate thing. But to be sitting at a table with people and being like, I want to curate the neighborhood. I want to make this neighborhood cool. I want to make this neighborhood fun. That blew my mind. It was like it ended up being so big when I looked at it. Like when it hit me, it was like it felt like a movie. It was like boom. And then the universe opened up and I was like, wait, yeah, we are. Hold on, wait a minute. We can play with this over here and this over here. And that's really the cool thing about working with these guys is that their dreams are not little. They have big dreams and they want to do some cool stuff. And he talked a little bit about how he he went on the crash course with the soil. Like, this guy made me want to like look at food in a different way. And I've worked with some really, really great chefs and we've worked with farms and stuff, but the way he looks at it is like, I want to make my own farm and I want to do the organic. I want to do it this way and this way. And he will take the time to dive into that industry and that knowledge and bring it back and bring it to the table. And that's what's really cool about working with these guys.
You mentioned like the idea of having these big dreams and expanding and thinking like, how can we change the neighborhood? How can we change the community? Where do you see the Interrail having that kind of impact? What is the opportunity there for you guys?
Well, yeah, it's a big question. I mean, for us, the core of it is family to me. I have a 2-year-old daughter myself, and, we try to create that as a space that people feel safe in, that people can bring their kids in. And, like I said, someone can watch the Huskers try to win, and then everyone else can, be running around playing. There's a park right around there and the dog park, and you can rip around. And so creating a core place for families has been so important to that neighborhood. So that's where it all starts for me. And obviously, we have a lot of businesses in the neighborhood and, people need to eat and we need to serve that too. But how can we start with serving families so that everyone can come and enjoy that space?
To the T. I can't say any more on that. I think family, community is our biggest thing. Seeing even over the last weekend of Halloween, we threw a Halloween party in the inner rail. Believe it was the first ever. And, we were kind of scrambling, like, is anybody going to come? This is a family place. And obviously it was very family friendly, but it was just like a worry. And the way that the community showed out, and kind of, it was our last day at Sonny's. Sonny's was closing down for the weekend or for the winter. And it really just showed me that the community is rocking with us and what we got going on, and coming to show out and show their support for what we got. So I would say, yeah, family and community is our biggest point we want to put out there.
I had Tiny on the podcast a couple months ago, and I went back and listened to it again the other day to prepare for this. And my number one takeaway, you just kept saying it time and time again, what you loved about food and what brought you back to food, what got you into food, what made food special, was how it brought people together. Food is that great connector, in that we all have to eat. And we, like, when you come to the table together, that's shared time, whether it's with family or with friends or, coworkers, whatever it might be, it brings people together. And I was like, man, what a perfect job for you, where you're not only bringing like individual families and friends and people together that can eat in this shared inter-rail space, but you're bringing in these different concepts and kind of making them a little mini family too. I was like, gosh, that is just perfect. This guy he's found a great role for himself. What is, in these, however long you've been in this position, how have you just kind of felt yourself look for opportunities to grow and expand and really just embrace this concept and build on it?
You're looking at him. This guy right here, he is the biggest pain, but the joy is in my life, because he will test me, and I'll bring him a product like
he's trying to get out of hard work.
No. I'll bring him a product, and because we're all also always trying to evolve and bring new things and new ideas to the inner rail, to the concepts, to everything. And it's that face every time. It's like he tries it and it's like, it could be better. And I know it's not out of disrespect, it's out of love, because he knows it could be better, and he's seen what I can do, and he's seen what we can do, and he believes in the team. So it's like, I would say the team. The team is what keeps me going and what keeps fresh ideas, because we're all young. We're all trying to get to it. And I think that keeping it fresh and keeping it like the strive to be better and be better and be better is because there's always room for improvement. That's what, like just keeps my gears going every day, is him on my back.
So on the idea of keeping it fresh, how much are you guys looking at what other food halls in the Midwest and around the country are doing? Are you monitoring other concepts that are similar to the inter-rail or maybe even bigger and saying, okay, they're doing that there. Maybe that doesn't work exactly here, but we could twist that in this way and put it here. Like, what does that research look like for you guys?
Hours and hours of meetings and talking. And like, that's another thing that's really cool with the core team that we have at Nato Hospitality. We sit down and we talk. It's almost like our own little family within the big, we have our little nucleus family within the big family in the community, because we sit down and we talk and we figure out what's next and what's new and where's that going and what's happening over here. And everyone brings it to the table. There's always new ideas coming down, and there's crazy big ideas. Sam Natos has some of the biggest crazy ideas that you could think of, but we take those ideas and we break them down on how we can use them and what we can do and what actually makes sense for our community and what we can present and make feasible.
One of the coolest things about the community aspect of what we're doing is we've tried to ask ourselves, we do look at what everyone else is doing. I mean, you got to know, it's like, what's everyone doing in our city? What are people doing in the Midwest? What are some of the big metropolises doing right now that seems to be, catching some new hype? And through all of this questioning, we've developed some pretty cool experiences, like a run club. We have the Exarban Run Club now, which started as just, a few people that like to run on our team and has grown into a couple hundred people that meet up every week at Sonny's. And now that Sonny's is closed, we'll be at Backstretch, the bar at the Inner Rail. But through that run club, there's been relationships that have blossomed. People have met their significant other through that experience. There's been proposals that have happened at Sonny's. There's been some wedding receptions, and some of those are the sweet spot for the whole thing. Like, once the community kind of accepts you on that sense and they start to form relationships that are lifelong there, that to me is the best part about the whole community.
Okay, so I want to touch on that a little bit more because I think that this is really interesting. Like, normally, if someone is going in to a restaurant and having an experience, you get them for at least half an hour. Maybe if it's in Okrant, it could be an hour and a half, 2 hours. You get several different touch points, whether it's the waiter touching the table several times, the manager could come out and say hi, the chef could come out and deliver a dish and just say, hey, how's everything tasting? I mean, you can touch that table and have a bunch of different interactions with your customer. So they're interacting with the restaurant 7-8 times during their meal, and you get a real chance to shape that experience. That's different in a fast casual concept. I mean, when somebody comes up and orders, then they get their buzzer, and when the buzzer goes off, they come up and get their food and they go back and sit down. So you get maybe 2 or 3 minutes of interaction with the customer, and yet you still want to build those same bonds and that same, man, I want to come back to this place that you would have in a traditional restaurant. How do you guys feel like you do that? What are some ways that you can create those experiences for people that maybe you're not getting to touch the table as much and have that personal conversation, but you're creating an area where they want to be and they want to come back to?
So, we've understood that problem in a food hall where it's at the register and you don't get a lot of time. And so we've tried to find ways to build it in a different sense. We know you're not going to interact with us as much. So we've faded into the background a little bit, and we've tried to ask ourselves, how can we help you interact with others more? So we've done little things like we have 2 board game sections. So that way, people start picking up games and they interact with each other more, which you might not always get at a sit down. Live entertainment, music bingo nights, different social interactive experiences. So for us, we understand that we're not at the forefront of this experience, but how can we help everyone else interact with each other in a better sense?
And I would say from the vendor standpoint, you got 30 seconds to wow somebody and bring them back, right? So your food, your concept has to be on point. Your hospitality has to be point. Like I said, you have, especially even at Tiny's, it's a little bit faster than like Sammy's. Sammy's, you maybe have total of 2-3 minutes that you're speaking with the customer, so you have a little bit of time. But at Tiny's, you ask for a slice, we have your slice up in 30 to 45 seconds, and you're out the door. So it's like you have to make it memorable for them to see you. And a big thing is acknowledging people. When they're walking by and they're choosing different stalls, it's acknowledging them and letting them know that they're there and that that they're in no rush. Go check them all out, and if you come back, you come back. So it's a weird kind of dynamic because it's like you want them to be at your business, but at the same time, like we said, like we have other concepts in here, and you can definitely, like, the freedom is yours, but we want to give them the hospitality that we can give them in that short amount of time. So it's very apparent for us to show up when it counts, for sure. And
I just want to touch on just the beauty of kind of the choose your own adventure aspect of the Inner Rail. Like, you can go into the Inner Rail and you can grab a slice of pizza and go get some dumplings, like, as a side dish. What other restaurant in Omaha can you do that? Where can you get a sushi roll to go alongside your gyro? So it's not even like, we've talked a lot about how different families and groups of friends can go and everybody can get their own thing. You yourself can just be like, I'm going to get this Asian tea salad from Kathmandu, and I can go get some brisket, and that's not a combination you're finding anywhere but the Inner Rail. Did you have something there? You stuck your finger up.
To expand on that,
yes.
We've even tried to make sure we aligned with the proper software. So you go to the website and you can order exactly that: 1 sushi roll, some brisket, a slice of pizza, and some ice cream, and our team will package that all up for you, and you can grab it or get it to go or whatever else. And we've tried to make that an all-inclusive experience as well. I mean, the cool thing about a sliced pizza concept is sometimes if there's a long line and people are waiting at it, they'll come grab a slice while they're waiting in line.
We got a lot of people that do that, which I think is so awesome because you wouldn't think about it, But when you're standing in the line at Nori's and they see the line over here, they'll kind of reach over because we're so close. They'll reach over and, hey, can I get a slice of pepperoni, and then whip the card out. It's a really cool experience of like what you can try and what you can kind of get your hands on in the food hall for sure.
Gotta love America, a place where while you're waiting in line for other food, you can just get a slice of pizza to eat while you wait. This is the greatest country in the world. So I want to, we've got about 15 more minutes here. I want to touch on your individual concepts and just kind of throw a spotlight on those real quick. So when you're brought onto the team, I mean, like I mentioned, you've had a career of being very successful working in other people's concepts and executing their food, but Tiny's was your ball of clay. Like the NRL handed it to you and said, here you go, man. Well, do what you want to do. What was it about pizza and specifically having a slice concept that made you go, my first venture, that's what I want it to be?
Well, because we sat down and we looked at Pops, and Pops was the other pizza restaurant that was in there before. And we sat down and we kind of listed everything that we needed or that wasn't going right, and we just kind of looked at it and we broke it down and what could make it easier, what could make it a little bit faster, what could make it a little bit better. And it started with the oven, and the oven in there for Pops was the big Via Farina style Italian oven or dome oven. And with those, it was a beautiful oven. It just can't crank. It doesn't have that much space, and it can't crank out that many pizzas at one time. And it's just the small little door on it. It didn't really work. So first thing we did is we got rid of the oven. We got a more New York style deck oven that can hold 8 16-inch pizzas. And then by that, we looked at the lunchtime, and we were like, well, people normally are going to eat 1 or 2 slices. They're not going to eat a whole pie, things like that. And we want to make it quick. So why not make it a New York slice house, where you can get a quick slice on the go. A really good mentor and person that helped me figure everything out was Dave Lasole at Virtuoso. And so I used to go there all the time working at Hurrdat, and he would sneak us some pizzas in the back. And I was like, man, that was my favorite experience, walking up to that window and getting a slice to go, and you're in and out in 5 minutes. And I was like, what better not to do that here at the NRL? And so that's kind of how that concept grew. It was just out of what we needed, but then also like the background of where I came, the experiences in Via Farina when I was tossing dough and things like that and making the pizzas there. It just felt natural to me. Going and getting a slice at Virtuoso's felt natural to me because I was doing it for 2-3 years before that. And so it kind of just fostered in like my experiences of what I've been through in the city, where I've been at, and it kind of just molded itself, really.
Something that I find so interesting about you is Tiny's is a New York style pizza joint that also serves handmade pasta. Mm-hmm. So dough, different doughs, but dough is very much a part of the whole process. You have to be very scientific with it. During our first podcast that we did together, you had a quote where you said, "Dough beat me up." This was something that you really struggled with early in your career. And I feel like a lot of people, when they encounter something in their life, whether it's their career or their personal life, if it's really hard and it, quote, beats them up, they're going to say, okay, maybe that's not my thing. I'm going to pivot. I tried that. That's not mine. That somebody else can do the dough. I'm going to go do this thing. And you went the opposite direction. You worked at Via Farina, which is pizza and pasta. You did the pasta station at Hurrdat, and now you've embraced that and opened that in your own concept. What is it about your personality you think that made you embrace the thing that was hard versus pivot away from it?
I would just maybe how I was raised. I was never raised to look away from a challenge. And I had 3 brothers and 1 older sister that used to beat me up all the time, and I couldn't run away from them, So I had to learn to face the challenges head on. And that's just kind of how I grew up. I put my head down. When something's hard, I put my head down and I get it done. And, a lot of the challenges like that I've been even facing lately with the concepts and being on that more business, that more back end of things, it just is. It's something that I wanted to learn. I always told myself, I want to be 30 years old and out of the kitchen. just because I've just seen the industry and that was my goal. And then I started to look at the back end of work and or the back end of it all, and it sucks. But that's something that I've always wanted to learn and always wanted to get on that side of. So I can't really run away from that. I have to learn it, and that's always been my mentality, to just kind of put it down and learn.
So I want to ask you guys, I think this is going to be interesting because we've got two different perspectives here. The first day that Tiny's opens, so we've got, Tiny, this is your concept, so you're obviously, nervous about it, hoping that people take to it. Kurtis, this is kind of the first, this is Sam's first venture. You guys brought this guy on. He's an awesome cook. He's a great chef, but this is his first opening in this role. What was that first day like for you guys? What do you remember about it? Just what pops to the front of your mind?
Well, we thought let's give some pizzas away for free, So we said let's do X amount of pizzas on the house just to let people know that we're here. And this guy went and gave away 300 pizzas. And it got the word out. It got the word out. People loved it, that was good. I had a lot of faith. I knew he had a lot of talent. And so once he stepped in, I felt a lot of confidence with that. And we spent a lot of time getting ready for that to open. He came on in January of 24, but he was in while he was still running the other kitchen. He was still in for over a month, coming in a few days a week. So he could download on everything that we needed to know for when he got started, because he came on in January and we opened Tiny's like April 4th or something like that. And so, we had started the work a few months before that, but then we really got into it in December, and then January and February, it was just all systems go. So by the time we actually got there, we were very confident about what we were doing. The biggest part was making sure that the restaurant was ready. We had a little bit of construction and stuff to do. So the opening day, there's always a push. It's always a little stressful, but we found the right team. We had a lot of passion. We had a lot of belief in what we were doing, and that translated as we were looking for people to come into that kitchen, and we found a lot of talented players to join us in that adventure.
Mm-hmm. That 300 pizzas, that went very quickly.
We had to close the next day because we have to ferment dough balls that takes over 24 hours. So he says, I'm sold out. And I was like, what do you mean you're sold out? And he's like, we got to close tomorrow. And I was like, tomorrow's Saturday.
Yeah, it was an accident. We had because like you said, we had an X amount of pizzas we were going to start moving, and we're, in your POS system. And these are some of the daily struggles that you have. Things can go sideways very quickly. And so as we're giving these slices out, we're trying to figure out how many slices that we are giving out, right? And so we're trying to count them. But I keep telling them, I'm like,
there's just so many people in line.
Yeah, I'm like, there's so many. It's so fast. Like, there's so much going on. And typing in every pizza, it's like you have to do it a certain way. You have to comp it this way, all this stuff. And so we're starting to ring them in, and it gets into like maybe 20 slices total. And it just goes all free for all. And I'm just like, you know what? There's like 50 people in line. Here's a pizza. Here's a pizza. Here's a pizza. Here's a pizza. And
it was a real Oprah moment.
Yeah, it was. Everyone got pizza that day, and we had people running back. But it was fun. It was, the opening day is always the most stressful. It always is. No matter how prepared you are, something's going to go sideways. Something's not going to go your way, and you have to learn to pivot and work around those. But I mean, I always love it's even like coming up here today. We've spoken multiple times, but I always get those jitters. It's like game time jitters. It's before you put right when you put those pads on and you're getting ready to go out there, or you're about to do your big performance, you get those jitters. And then as soon as that first one's sold, it's almost like, okay, I remember this. This is how it goes. And it just starts to click in, and then the wheel starts turning. And, it's hard and it's stressful, but it's what I love to do. It's what I've done.
All right, let's go inside Sammy's real quick. You guys talked about how you came up with the concept, why you wanted to open a sub shop. But I know you guys. You weren't just going to open, just our version of Subway or whatever. This had to be a sub shop that was, excuse my pun, a cut above. How do you elevate something as humble as a sub sandwich and be like, this is going to be our version of what a sub sandwich shop should be?
This is what I was talking about with him. So, we sit in the meeting, right? And again, this is the hardest stall in the food hall, and we're all sitting down and we're thinking, this is probably the third concept we have come up with this kitchen. And I'm stressed out because Tiny's, I'm still worried about Tiny's, everything's going on. And I'm like, listen, I don't know what's going on. Sam comes in and he's like, you know what? We're making sandwiches. Boom. And I was like, okay, we're making sandwiches. Because that was like the first, we got it. We're making sandwiches. And then so I make my first couple of sandwiches and everyone's like, everyone's like, yeah, it's good, it's good. I give it to him and he's like, it's all right, I guess. I'm like, okay. So we start working with it again and we're working with it again. And honestly, we got to the idea of like kind of the way that Tiny's came up, and there's pizza everywhere. Pizza Hut is pizza, But the idea with Tiny's even was to make the sourdough, to make it a little bit healthier, to better ingredients, local honey, local mushrooms. And so what did we think? Like for Sammy's, it was when we were going to check out these other sandwich shops, it's you don't see the product, you don't see the meat, you don't see where the lettuce is coming from, the tomatoes and all this stuff. In our mind, that was like the key. Veggies taste better when they're local. Meat tastes better when there's not that many preservatives in it and there's no GMOs and things like that. So just coming together and like piecing those little pieces piece by piece was key, what made it extraordinary for us, because that first sandwich was the Godfather. We made the Godfather and it was okay. Like you said, it was okay. And then when we tried it with the local ingredients and the better meats and different cheeses, and when we got to that product, it was like that's what it is, and still a mark from him was it's okay.
He'll keep pushing you. Yeah.
Pushing
he won't ever let you rest on your laurels.
No.
And I just want to be clear. You come into Sammy's Sub Shop, every meat, every slice of cheese, it is sliced in front of you after you order it. So there's nothing coming out of a bag, nothing that's just been sitting on the counter for 2 hours. It is something that is being cut to order, and I just think that makes the experience that much better. I got one final question for you guys before we get out of here. You're both still fairly new at the food hall, but already like big changes are being made and improvements are being made. Sammy's and Tiny's are both awesome additions. When you guys look at the future of the inner rail, what do you see?
Breakfast.
Breakfast.
Yeah.
We're bringing breakfast back,
I see a world where every single genre, different vendor creates a breakfast dish that is authentic and true to itself. So I've already started working it, and next year we're probably going to talk about maybe one day a week. Let's do one brunch a week, one day a week.
This sounds awesome.
Where every vendor is serving something different for breakfast. There's that aspect of it. And then it's just still, how can we play around with late nights then too? And how can we keep curating the neighborhood itself around us to foster that connection?
Yeah, I would say growing our community and growing the people that we're around and the people that we can reach, because I feel like one of the biggest things is you can't tell that it's back there. It's kind of hard to see unless you know. Before I came onto the team, I used to go to Saffron and Herb Saint and all those restaurants in the neighborhood and not being able to see it. So just getting that word out there and spreading it through the community that, we're there and we're trying to do something cool and fun and new, by events, by brunch, by all these different avenues that we're trying to tap into. I think it's just getting to the community and letting them know that we're there.
Because that's the thing. I mean, every day someone walks in there. They're like, I didn't even know this place existed. And I've been up and down this street like for years. So even letting people know that we exist is a good one too.
Well, whatever I can do, whatever my voice is worth, I have been pointing people towards the in-rail for years, and I'm going to continue to do so. And I'll just personally attest to it. We've got our church small group. Usually when we go out to eat, we go out there because it's easy. Everybody can get their own thing. We don't have to worry about getting a table. We don't have to worry about, so-and-so, is going vegan. So-and-so is gluten-free. Boom. There's options for everybody all in one place. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. And I'm so appreciative of you guys and all the hard work that you put into it. And I'm so appreciative that you both came in and served a bunch of food and came on the podcast tonight. Thank you so much. This is awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
And Omaha, as always, thanks for eating with us.